Imagine inheriting so much gold that it kills you. Sounds impossible, right? In the ancient empire of Mali, one young emperor's fate was sealed by the very wealth that surrounded him. What if the richest king's heir literally drowned in gold? This isn't a fairy tale or a myth. It's the dark, chilling tale of Mansa Musa's successor and his bizarre death. From the shimmering thrones of a golden palace to a night of treachery and blood, today we're uncovering a story that will send shivers down your spine. This story isn't just about riches. It's a cautionary saga of greed, betrayal, and the deadly price of unimaginable wealth. By the end, you'll see why even the richest empire couldn't protect its king from a gruesome end, and what lessons this harrowing history holds for us today. Our story begins in the Mali Empire of the 14th century, a realm so wealthy it dazzled the world. Mansa Musa, the legendary king of Mali, had just died around 1337, leaving behind an empire bursting with prosperity. Gold flowed like rivers through Mali's markets and courts. Picture it. Endless stacks of gold bars, heaps of gold dust, jewel-encrusted thrones, wealth beyond imagination. This was the empire Mansa Musa's young son, Maghan, inherited. From the moment Maghan donned the crown, he was literally surrounded by gold. His father, Musa, had been the richest man on earth, known for giving away so much gold during his pilgrimage to Mecca that he caused an economic crisis abroad. Now all that wealth, all that power, rested on Maghan's inexperienced shoulders. The world watched in awe and envy. Would this young Mansa continue his father's golden legacy, or would the weight of all that treasure crush him? Maghan's Mali was at its peak, sprawling across West Africa, controlling vital trade routes, and famed for cities like Timbuktu, where scholars gathered in newly built libraries and mosques. Gold and salt caravans crisscrossed the Sahara, filling the imperial treasury to the brim. It was a golden age, literally. But as glorious as it looked on the outside, dark shadows were gathering within the palace walls. The new emperor's every step clinked on gold tiles, but those halls of wealth were also echoing with whispers of discontent. Who was Maghan, this heir to such legendary riches? By all accounts, he was a young man thrust into power too soon. Imagine being in your teens or early 20s and suddenly becoming the emperor of the richest empire on earth. The crown on his head was heavy, not just with gold, but with expectation. Courtiers, generals, and merchants all wondered, could this youth measure up to mighty Mansa Musa? At first, Maghan tried to bask in the luxuries his father left him. Chronicles suggest he was fond of extravagance. Golden banquets lit by oil lamps, with goblets of wine and platters overflowing with roasted game, became common in his court. Draped in silks and gold brocade, Maghan presented himself as every bit the wealthy monarch. He spent lavishly, gifting gold trinkets to favorites and throwing coins to crowds in grand gestures. The treasury, once overflowing, began to empty for frivolous reasons. The new Mansa was enjoying his inheritance, perhaps too much. But as Maghan reveled in comfort, he failed to see the dangers lurking around him. He wasn't the commanding general or the shrewd diplomat his father had been. Important meetings were missed or handled poorly. Some subjects murmured that the young king was more interested in gold than in governing. Beyond the palace, traders and officials quietly grumbled that Maghan's generosity was turning into careless waste. And within the royal family itself, ambition began to stir. Maghan had an uncle named Suleiman, also spelled Suleiman, Mansa Musa's brother, who had years of experience and a keen eye on the throne. Could the empire's greatest fortune be undoing its new master? Maghan didn't know it, but each coin he tossed and each indulgence he took was slowly eroding the respect and loyalty that held his empire together. In the gilded shadows, the jackals were circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Mali Empire's palace at Niani was a sight to behold. Its walls reportedly lined with gold leaf and its storerooms piled high with treasure. Yet behind that splendor, a deadly conspiracy was taking form. Uncle Suleiman and other discontented nobles watched Maghan squander Mali's wealth with growing anger. To them, this wasn't just youthful folly. It was dangerous misrule that could bring down an empire. Whispers of revolt slithered through the corridors. Late at night, secret meetings took place in torch-lit chambers. High-ranking generals, influential merchants, even members of the royal family met with hushed voices. They spoke of Maghan's weakness, of how Mali needed a strong hand at the helm, someone like Suleiman. Bags of gold quietly changed hands as bribes to secure loyalty. Ironically, the very gold that Maghan treated like an endless toy became the currency of treason against him. Maghan was blissfully unaware of how dire things had become. Perhaps he noticed the stolen glances, the abrupt silence when he entered a room, but he did nothing. He trusted his family and court, too naive to suspect a betrayal. To his subjects, he still played the generous king, handing out gold bangles and coins at festivals, trying to keep their love with wealth. But loyalty bought with gold is loyalty that can be sold, and Maghan was about to learn this in the cruelest way. Imagine the tension building in those days. Every sunrise in the palace courtyards brought forced smiles and concealed daggers. Maghan sat on a golden throne, and as he held court, some of the smiling faces before him were already plotting his downfall. Perhaps even at his opulent feasts, music playing, dancers twirling, conspirators were eyeing the exits and calculating when to make their move. The air was thick with treachery, even if the young emperor couldn't smell it. Little did Maghan know, a storm was brewing right within his own palace. The people closest to him were about to turn his glittering world into a nightmare. The stage was set, and the final act of this golden tragedy was about to unfold. One moonless night, the palace of Niani fell unnaturally quiet. The usual sounds of laughter and music died down early. Maghan found himself drawn to one of his favorite places, the imperial treasury, a massive vault flickering with lamplight and filled floor to ceiling with gold. Here, he often wandered alone, running his fingers through piles of coins or admiring jewel-encrusted artifacts from far-off lands. Surrounded by the gleam of his wealth, he perhaps felt safe. But on this night, the treasury would become a tomb. As Maghan admired a large golden chalice, he didn't notice the dark figure slipping into the vault behind him. In an instant, the hush was broken. A hand snuffed out the oil lamp and shadows leapt. Maghan spun around only to be seized by armed men, his own palace guards, now traitors under his uncle's command. He had no time to scream. They forced him to his knees amidst the mountains of gold coins that he loved so much. His heart pounded in disbelief. This had to be a bad dream, right? How could his own people betray him, here in the heart of his treasure? What came next was a scene of pure horror. The conspirators were not content to simply stab or poison their king. They had devised a chilling end befitting an emperor of gold. Maghan's uncle Suleiman stepped forward from the darkness. Perhaps there was a brief, tense exchange, a last plea from Maghan, or a cold accusation from Suleiman. But soon, the young emperor's fate was sealed. 2 guards held Maghan down and pried open his mouth. Then the assassins brought forth a cauldron containing something heated and glowing. Molten gold. In a moment that defies imagination, the liquid gold was poured brutally down Maghan's throat. He literally drowned in gold. The scalding metal scorched his insides, silencing his cries of agony almost as soon as they began. Maghan's body convulsed, golden droplets searing his lips and chin, his eyes wide with terror. The smell of burnt flesh filled the vault as the young emperor's life was snuffed out in unspeakable pain. Gold, once the symbol of his power, had become the instrument of his grotesque execution. When the deed was done, the traitor stepped back to behold the macabre sight. Mansa Maghan's lifeless form collapsed on the floor. Gold coins scattered around him, and molten gold hardened in his throat. In the dim light of the vault, it looked as if the emperor was embracing his treasure one final time, lying among the very gold that had consumed him. The strange death of Mansa Musa's successor was complete, horrifying, ironic, and unforgettable. The emperor who lived by gold had died by gold, in the most literal way imaginable. By dawn, Mansa Suleiman sat on the throne of Mali. Officially, it was announced that Maghan had died suddenly. Some say of an illness. Others whispered of an accident. But those who had witnessed the ghastly scene in the treasury knew the truth, and the legend of the emperor who drowned in gold was born. In hushed tones, people spoke of Maghan's fate as a warning. Too much greed and indulgence can destroy even a king. Suleiman's rule would last for years, and under his hand, Mali continued for a time in relative stability, at least on the surface. Yet, something had changed irreversibly. The golden aura of Mansa Musa's dynasty was now stained with blood. Suleiman's reign saw its own share of darkness, tales of civil war erupting when he spurned his powerful wife, and conflicts over succession continuing after his death. The Mali Empire, once unbreakable under Mansa Musa, began to fracture in the decades after. The cracks started from within, on that fateful night when betrayal and greed converged in the treasury. The story of Maghan's demise echoed through generations. Griots, the storytellers of West Africa, would recount the rise and fall of Mali's rulers, and when they spoke of Maghan, their voices dropped to a fearful whisper. How the young ruler basked in wealth, how he neglected his duties, and how he met a grisly end at the hands of his own kin. It's a dark parable about the dangers of excess and the treachery that absolute wealth can breed. Even today, the phrase "drowned in gold" reminds us that wealth without wisdom can be a lethal trap. As horrifying as Maghan's death was, it forces us to reflect on a timeless truth. Power and riches mean nothing if trust and loyalty are lost. His death was strange and terrible, but it also marked the turning point for an empire that learned too late that gold can't buy integrity. This tale from history can positively impact us by reminding us to stay humble, to value people over riches, and to beware the corrupting touch of greed. The emperor who drowned in gold has shown us that even the mightiest can fall in the most shocking ways. An empire's glittering wealth could not save a young king from betrayal, and in fact, it hastened his doom. If this dark, suspenseful saga captivated you, make sure to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What lessons do you take from the rise and fall of Mali's golden dynasty? Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating and chilling stories from history. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next adventure into the past, because sometimes truth really is stranger and darker than fiction.